Hello and welcome to this video, which is going to talk about all the effects which can be applied to a level 20 bard using Xanathar's Guide to Everything and the archetypes found therein for Fantasy Grounds. As you can see, we've already got our bard up to level 20, and if we look at the Actions tab, we've already entered some of the aspects of the College of Glamour. And I'll just show you quickly how we did this. We open up the College of Glamour. We've got the Unbreakable Majesty to go in here. So we just drag this in and drop it and type in the College of Glamour. And it adds it to this power group that we've already created. Now you can see also that simply by dragging and dropping these features into the Actions tab, effects may already get created. Now the benefit of doing this for the player and to some extent for the Dungeon Master is that if we click on these links, then it will take us to the explanation of this particular aspect of the College of Glamour. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause the video and then I'm going to add in all the effects for these four specializations, and then we'll have a look at them in some detail. So let's have a look at the College of Glamour effects then. The first one is Mantle of Inspiration, so if we have a look to see what that says, and essentially it's simply a case of any creature that you can see, you expend one use of your bardic inspiration, and the creatures that you've chosen gain 5 temporary hit points. So the effect is just simply that. It's just a heal effect, and the hit points have been set to temporary and the actual number has been added in there. Fairly straightforward, nothing terribly exciting. The number of hit points increases depending on level. I've just left that at 5, but I mean, since this is a 20th level character, it should obviously be 14. The next one is Enthralling Performance. If we have a look at that, we have to perform for a minute, and then we can choose a number of characters equal to our charisma modifier. Each creature must make a wisdom saving throw or be charmed. Now, since some of these specializations require a saving throw, we've actually gone into the data here in the College of Glamour, and we have set our ability to charisma for this particular power group, so that all the saving throws, etc., which we create will have the right difficulty class. So in this one we have created the saving throw effect using the group DC, and put the wisdom type in, and then we've also created the charmed effect, which is obviously set onto a target, and we've set it to expend for 60 minutes. We've done 60 minutes instead of an hour because Fantasy Grounds will actually convert this to a number of turns and it'll stay on the combat tracker, whereas an hour doesn't actually show on the combat tracker properly. There's nothing else regarding this that we can set anything for. There's no other effects that we can properly enact to make this any better. Mantle of Majesty. Have a look at that one. You basically cloak yourself in some kind of fey magic, and you can cast a command spell without expending a spell slot, and this whole thing lasts for a minute, or until your concentration ends. So again, there's no real effect that we can actually create for this that's any use to us, but there is a couple of things we can do. We can create this effect here, which is simply the Mantle of Majesty, which Fantasy Grounds will completely ignore because that's not a keyword. But what we have done is we've included a semicolon and then a capital C in brackets. We've set the duration to a minute and the targeting to self. Now this C here is important because this will make automatic concentration checks should our bard be damaged in any way. So we can have a look at that in operation. So let's suppose our bard has placed this effect on themselves. As you can see, it's going to count down for a period of time. And if the bard now takes any kind of damage during this period, they'll automatically make a saving throw, a concentration saving throw against difficulty class 10. And as you can see, in this case, the saving throw failed, and so the effect has been removed from the bard. If the throw had been succeeded, then the effect would remain until it ran out or until another concentration check was failed. We have the command spell is attached to here, so we can just open that up and have a look at it and see what all it requires. And we can also, of course, simply take the spell from here and drag and drop it into the Actions tab to place it there for the character's use. And the last one in this suite is the Unbreakable Majesty. And again, it's another one where you have some kind of magical presence, and for the duration of the spell, any creature that wants to attack you has to make a saving throw, and on a failed save it can't attack. And in addition, the creature has disadvantage on any saving throw against any of your spells. So here we've created our saving throw with the charisma of DC 14, which has been worked out by Fantasy Grounds, and we've given it the group DC. This somehow or other has been ticked, but it shouldn't be. The creature will just simply make a saving throw. Once we've got a target here, we can cast the spell or cast the ability. The saving throw will be made. This effect here, the Unbreakable Majesty one, is simply an effect which is going to sit on the character, and it's simply going to be a counter. Fantasy Grounds won't recognise what Unbreakable Majesty is, but it'll simply be a counter to remind the character that they have this effect on them. And this effect here, this save, this one can be placed on the target just before the bard makes or forces a saving throw from the target. You don't want this on the creature or on the target for as a permanent action, otherwise it's going to get this disadvantage to saving throws against any kind of save. So we expend this on next action. So how this would work would be if it was the bard's turn and they decided to cast a spell on Orc 1, then they would simply drag that onto Orc 1, and then when the saving throw was forced, either by the bard or by the Orc, then the Orc was going to get disadvantage on that particular save, and then the effect will be removed. So that's it for the College of Glamour. I'll pause again and I'll add in the effects for the College of Swords, and we'll discuss them after I've done that. So we've set up College of Swords, but I want to just go back to the College of Glamour for a moment. You'll notice there are these checkboxes beside several of the abilities in here, and that is because they've got limited uses. In that the bard can only use them once per short or long rest. So we've gone into preparation mode in these ones, and we have altered the or entered a 1 into the checkbox here, and we have selected rest. And that's given us these checkboxes. So when the bard uses Unbreakable Majesty, for example, it will disappear from the Actions tab, showing that it's been used, but if the bard then takes a short or a long rest, it'll come back. So on to the College of Swords then. We haven't bothered dragging in bonus proficiencies or extra attacks since they're dealt with elsewhere in the character sheet, and we don't need effects for these, or indeed can we produce effects for them. So the first one we could produce an effect for is fighting style. And in this case, the only one that we can really affect is the dueling, where we get a +2 bonus to damage rolls, provided that it's a melee weapon and they're only holding one weapon. So the effect for that is simply damage 2 melee. Now, the problem with this is it's going to give damage or 2 points of extra damage to any melee weapon, even if they are holding 2. Fantasy Grounds isn't going to know that, so obviously it's up to the player and the Dungeon Master how they use this effect. It can sit on the character permanently, but be aware that it will give damage or additional damage to every melee attack. Fantasy Grounds isn't going to be aware of the other rules that are required to be fulfilled before this can be applied. However, that's the effect. The second one that we can look at is the Blade Flourish, and this is a bit of a weird one as well. You have various options here, but all of them require you to roll a bardic inspiration dice and then take the result, and you can add them to the weapon damage that you deal to a target, and in the case of defensive flourish you can also add it to your armor class for until the start of your next turn. There's no way that these effects can be automated. So what we've done here is to just set up effects for damage 1 and AC 1. And the player, let's have a look at the player screen here. The player can alter these effects as and when they need them. If you want to use them in this way. So the way I suppose it could be done is that the player rolls their bardic inspiration dice. Let's say it's a d6. They take that result to 4, and then they would go in and amend these effects to be 4, depending on which one they had chosen. And then apply the effect. As you can see, this one's going to be removed on the next action, and this one's got a duration of 1 round. So you could use them in that way, or you could just do the whole thing manually. The benefit, I suppose, of doing the damage this way is that you'll get the correct damage type. I mean, if you just simply roll a d4 and drag that damage onto the enemy, it'll be untyped damage. And you might want to make sure that it is the correct damage type, because the enemy may be resistant, for example, to bludgeoning, and if the bard is using a bludgeoning weapon, then that would be resisted, whereas if you just simply dragged 4 damage onto it, it'll take the full 4 damage. So that's that aspect of it. There's nothing really very much else in Blade Flourish that you can set up an effect for. The rest of it is kind of theatre of the mind type things, or moving them and that kind of thing. So these are the only 2 effects you could set up, and whether or not you use them, it's up to you. And the last one, Master's Flourish, is pretty much just the same as Blade Flourish, except you can roll a d6 rather than your bardic inspiration dice. So the 2 effects here will do for this as well. It's just a question of which dice you roll and what the value you roll is. So that's it for College of Swords. I'll pause the video and set up the College of Whispers, and we'll be back soon. Okay, we've set up the effects for College of Whispers. We have, as we did with College of Glamour, we've gone into the data for the power group, and we've changed the ability here to Charisma so that any saving throws in here are correctly computed. And we've also, as you've seen, we've got our little dots here, so we've gone into preparation mode, and several of these are only available. This one, for example, is only available if they've taken a short rest, and this one is only available after a long rest. So these have limits to them, and as we saw with College of Glamour, the player can tick these boxes off, and they'll disappear from the Actions tab once they've been used, and will come back depending on the length of the rest. So the first one here is Psychic Blades, quite simple. You make a weapon attack against a creature, expend a use of Bardic Inspiration, and deal an extra 2d6 psychic damage. So that's quite a simple effect. We deal with, there's the damage, the targeting is self, and the expend is on next roll. So we simply apply this effect to ourself, or to our Bard, and then the Bard rolls for damage. This extra damage will get rolled along with it, and the effect will then be removed. We've got it at 2d6, but as you can see, it increases depending on the level. The next one is Words of Terror. And again, this is a fairly straightforward one. You speak to something for a minute, it's got to make a spell save, and if it fails, it's frightened of you for an hour. So we've set up our spell saving throw, we've got the group DC, we've got the wisdom type in, and then we've created the frightened effect lasting for an hour, set to targeting, and that's pretty much it. Then we've got Mantle of Whispers. You make some kind of whisper to something. You can capture this person's soul effectively, and then the disguise lasts for an hour. Now this is kind of theatre of the mind, but what we have done for this one is we've created the Mantle of Whispers effect and set it to 60 minutes, and this effect will simply be placed on the Bard, and it will count down so that they have a counter as to how long the Mantle of Whispers has got left to go before it expires. And the only other thing here down the bottom is that somebody can try and see through the disguise, and you've got to make a contested check using your deception, and you get a +5 bonus to this check. So we've set up an effect here to add a 5-point bonus to the skill check. It's set to self and is set to expire on next action. So we would simply apply the effect to the Bard, and the Bard then makes a deception check. Gets 5 points extra to it, and the effect is expired on the Bard. So that's it. There isn't anything else that we can add in for these archetypes, and so that's it. We'll see you in the next video, should you be one shooting it.